Welcome back to my channel. We're going to be building another terrarium using skulls. First off, the drainage layer. If you've already watched this sort of setup, you'll know I've got this lava rock from my last terrarium that I'm going ahead and throwing in right now. Afterwards, we'll move on to a screen mesh and get that cut to shape, just so that way it has a slight lip over the hang. And then we'll move on to a charcoal layer for filtration and drainage. Next will be the substrate layer. I'm going to put a little bit of dry sphagnum to absorb some of the wetness from the charcoal. And then I'll get the substrate that I have been using out and go ahead and dump that in. Pretty much going to be using up this whole bag to do the rest of this terrarium. Spread it out, shape it out. We've got a little bit of a vision of a tree stump with a cave. I think we're going to use the skull to make out the cave, so I'm kind of building up a hillside for that. And then I'm moving on to the cork bark to build my tree stump with. Get the skull into position. Always got to adjust the mandibles and the jaws. Dig out my little cave, so that way the isopods can go in and hide away. Finish burying it down. Rounding out the hillside. And then onto the cork bark. At first I think I wanted to do some tree roots, have it sprawl across the terrarium, but once again, couldn't quite make that work. I think I need to get something other than cork bark to be doing stuff like that. But until then, I ended up with just this one piece here in the back. And I tried to make sprawling roots, but it just, like I said, it just didn't really work out too well. Onto the finishing touches. Leaf decay layer. Shred and tear pieces in so that way even the babies can get at it. Some decorative pieces. I'll work around with them as we go. I want this place to look pretty nice before we go ahead and start putting in the plants. Alrighty, it's not done, but we're going to go ahead and move on to the plants. I've got a little bit of English ivy that I'm going to be putting in here. I don't know how well it will do. I just know this stuff does very well outside. So we're going to go ahead and bury a fair bit of it so that way most of it has a chance to root. If not, then oh well. But as the leaves decay and fall off, they'll provide infinite food for the isopods. Onto the mosses. I've got a different selection of fern mosses, it looks like, to me, but of course somebody else will probably know a little better. But I'm going to go ahead and stick these down here at the base of the skull and then up on top of the skull. And it is done. With the lid on, I went ahead and put the bolts in. So that way we could go ahead and get a look at this thing. Onto the isopods. Feeling out the heat pack. It is dry and crunchy, so no heat to it. Not too shocking. They arrived healthy and fine, though. Let's go ahead and unveil them. Pretty standard packaging. Paper or newspaper, usually. And here they are. My orange cream Parcelio Previs. For the most part, they all look healthy and fine. There's a little piece of carrot in there that I can see right now. But look at them. The little buggers are squirming all over the place. And because of their size, I got some medical tape that I covered the vents already with. Look at that. Smooth. Nothing's getting out of there. Anyways, let's go ahead and move these guys on in. Should be a faster move than the Gestroys, considering that they're amount and quantity. Nothing on the lid. Nothing on the lid. Tap anything off. And let's go ahead and encourage them a little to get on out of there. Enjoy. At this point, they'd all pretty much left the container, so I decided to pull it on out. Gently tipping it over and tapping out any remainders. Scares them away a little bit too, but that's alright. I want to ensure that they're all in the container and not in, well, in the enclosure and not in the container. I did spot something interesting. One of the isopods seems to have already molted its front half off. Maybe we can catch it molting the other half in the next episode. If you've liked, please subscribe and enjoy some more isopod content.